Hello there, Bruce. I know I shouldn't really be responding to this video because you'd asked for responses from gay Christians, but I thought, well, I match half the criteria, so what the hell. I've met quite a few gay religious people in my time, and when it eventually comes up in conversation and I ask them how it is that they reconcile their religious beliefs with their sexual orientation, especially the Christians when you consider what the Bible has to say about us, their answer is normally something along the lines of the fact that Jesus never specifically mentioned gay people, that Jesus' message was all about love, that Jesus' teachings in the New Testament supersede everything that's in the Old Testament, so we don't have to take those literally any longer. This doesn't really hold too much water with me because Romans is in the New Testament, and Romans' condemnation of homosexuality is very clear. So the conclusion that I draw from this is that I think the answer from gay Christians is likely to be along the same lines as the answer you get from any Christian. If you ask them about the inconsistencies of what they believe with what's written in the Bible, or even the inconsistencies that are written in the Bible itself, and it boils down to cherry picking. The bits they like, the bits that they don't like so much, they're just going to ignore. Where it all starts getting really kind of Edward Lear on me is when I ask them, well, why do you believe what you believe? What evidence do you have to back up your beliefs? What makes you feel this way? Do you feel that you've got proof for it, or is it just something that you know in your head to be true? And they start referring back to Scripture, the same Scripture that they selectively ignore the bits they don't like. Somehow this press-like logic makes sense to them, so it would be really interesting to see a different perspective from somebody who posts back. So here's hoping that you get some interesting and sane responses back to your video. Now, your story about the preacher in the car park pretty much sums up what it is about these people that really pisses me off. It's not their beliefs. I think that people should be entitled to their beliefs, which I know is very big of me, but I believe in a free society. People should be entitled to their beliefs, even if they disagree with me. But they don't seem to have the same attitude. They're not happy for anybody else to hold views that are not identical to their own. And I know that this isn't an accusation you can just level against Christians. There are plenty of people who hold moral or political or ethical ideas very, very dearly to themselves and are not open to interpretation by anybody else or any kind of difference. But generally speaking, they tend to be rarer than the religious fundamentalist evangelists. And the good thing about the non-evangelist types is that if you tell them you're not interested, they leave you alone. I actually had the God botherers at the door a few days ago. And I opened up the door, doorbell rang, opened up the door, and there's this woman standing there, and she said to me, do you mind if I take a few minutes to read you some scripture? So I just chuckled and said to her, look, don't bother, you're wasting your time, I'm not a believer. And she then said, well, do you mind if I ask why? And I said to her, yeah, actually I do mind. This is personal. I don't want to be questioned about it by somebody who's just knocked unannounced on my door. I don't want to be questioned by a stranger on my doorstep. I don't really think that that was an unreasonable response. I don't think that it's unreasonable that I should not want to have my home invaded by uninvited guests who then take it upon themselves to start criticising my belief, because I think that's just bad manners, if nothing else. It does present a bit of a dilemma, because I do try to be nice to people if I can, and I'm reluctant just to be overtly rude to them and tell them to fuck off. Because I actually think that they're doing it out of the best of motives. They genuinely believe that they're going to be helping me by revealing the light. So, a bit of an ethical dilemma there in trying to try and dissuade them from talking to me. But what I do feel is that if I refuse their help, then that's my decision, and they should respect that. And I'll give you an example of this, is that I commute into work every weekday on the train and use the tube system. And quite often, if I see somebody with a buggy or heavy luggage, an old person with heavy luggage, I'll offer to help them get up the stairs, you know, where the escalators aren't working or there aren't any moving staircases. And if they refuse, then I just get on with my life. I don't start berating them, telling them how stupid they are to have refused my assistance, or you know, the lack of logic in them turning down help and assistance from somebody else when they're obviously in need, because I think that's wrong. You know, I respect their right, and that's all I want. I expect the same degree of consideration in return. I've never really experienced the I don't know, outright aggression, I suppose, that this guy showed you in the car park. Thankfully, that kind of religious zealotry doesn't seem to be that common here in the UK. Well, having said that, I am growing more concerned with each passing day, because it does seem to be getting more common with the fundamentalist Christians and Muslims. But I'm not going to try and convert anybody to be an atheist. You know, I'm quite happy to put my view across. I actually quite enjoy putting my view across. It's nice to share ideas with people, and it's nice to hear other people's views if they don't agree with my own, because it gets me thinking. But I'm always going to accept somebody else's right not to believe what I'm saying. And I'm certainly not going to be going out and accosting people as they're leaving the supermarket, or, you know, disturb them at home so that I can get my message across. And that's what it boils down to, you know, for me anyway. You know, I think these people have got a bit of a fucking cheek, just showing up at my door and persisting to try and sell me something when I've said no. So all the power to you, you know. I think you did exactly the right thing to this guy in the car park. And moreover, that police officer is an idiot. So anyway, good luck, and I look forward to seeing what kind of responses you get to your post.